Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. Okay. Guys, this is day 3. We have 2 more panels left to the day. I thank you for your patience and for sitting here and enjoying this program. The next panel that we have is on AI, data, and market intelligence, extracting signal from the noise. Joining us on stage is Austin Bennett, who's a research software engineer with Circle. Kyle Fugere, the SVP of Engineering with Flipside Crypto, and this discussion is going to be led by Heidi Pickett, the Chief Business Officer at the TIE. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage.
Thank you, Ian. I am very happy to be moderating this panel. Super important topic. And we're almost the last panel, which I would have said they saved the best for last. But I can't say that because there's the one more panel after us. But in any event, I'm Heidi Pickett. I am Chief Business Officer with the TIE. If you don't know us, we are a provider of information services for institutions and digital assets. Super excited to be joined here with Austin and Kyle from organizations that probably don't need any introduction, but we will get to that, on what I think is probably one of the most talked about topics today, and that's the intersection of AI, data, market intelligence. Can we extract signal from the noise? So excited to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, we're excited.
Okay, well, let's kick it off. Everybody knows Circle. Everybody knows Flipside Crypto. But let's have a quick introduction, who you are, and more specifically, what is your role at the intersection of AI and data?
I'll go first. Thanks, Austin. Name's Kyle Fugere. I run engineering and data at Flipside Crypto. Been at the company for 3.5 years and really helped kind of push our effort into the AI space. We've always been in the data space. The next big evolution for us was how do you combine kind of AI and the rich data asset we have. And so looking forward to speaking about a lot of that here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Austin. I joined Circle 4 months ago, actually, on the research team, where I primarily cover AI. Before that, I did my bachelor's and master's in statistics AI at Stanford and helped create the stablecoin class there. So.
Nice. So I would say, like, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a year or so, but, like, it was all like, okay, AI, crypto, is it just hype or is there something real? So let's just kick it off. Like, I think we've moved beyond that narrative and that it's much more positive. There is something real here. But I don't know, what are the myths out there that you want to just say, that is not accurate, let's move beyond, this is like something we need to be all paying attention to?
I feel like you can take that in so many different ways. You know, like, is AI a fad? Or is AI magic? Or even the combination of AI and blockchain could be, is that for payments? Would we see micropayments in the future? But, I'm a bit of an optimist on this space. And so I think the biggest myth currently is that AI can't be trusted for a lot of this data analytics or analysis. We certainly had a period where there was a lot of hallucinations and people kind of built that into their heads. But I think increasingly, we rarely run into hallucinations. What we're running into is, it just searched the wrong table or it didn't have the context to answer the question. There's a lot of I think of autonomous vehicles in this way. They're far safer than human drivers, but when one crashes, it's a big deal. And when your AI messes up a little bit, it's a big deal, even though it's probably more accurate than most humans. And so I think the myth is that it's not yet at the stage where it can do large-scale data analysis effectively.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just thinking of AI as a monolith. Whenever I talk to people, they always think like, oh, AI is ChatGPT, when in reality, AI is supervised learning, like classic statistical modeling, or deep learning, unsupervised learning. There's a lot of different things it is. So thinking that you can kind of have this one-size-fits-all approach to AI with blockchain or anything really, I don't think that's valid. It's a myth that a lot of people have.
So, I mean, Kyle, you touched upon this a little bit, but I guess the next question I have is around just the sheer amount of data, and it's growing like all the time, particularly in digital assets. So what are the biggest challenges that you're encountering today? Is there like too much noise, lack of standardization? What's the difficulty in extracting like real insights, actionable insights?
I'll take this one too. So the it seems like a boring answer, but we we have 40 trillion plus rows of data currently. That's going to be 80 trillion rows by next year. If Stripe and others fully integrate stablecoin payments across every transaction, I'm already worried about how we store and access that data. We're already having those conversations internally of like, what is the appropriate amount of data to store? There's a history here. Where does it live? Certainly we have the aggregates, and what you see and search within our system is the aggregates of that data. But that raw data happens and it lives somewhere. And so as I think about the adoption, which is amazing, for many of these chains, that data is just massive volumes. And so for me, it's really the storage problem as much as the analytics problem. We can curate and model data effectively to make it searchable, but that raw data still lives somewhere, and so that's always on my mind, especially as the owner of our budget on the data warehousing side. But that's one of them.
Yeah. Of the three you mentioned, and just as it applies to like at least my work specifically, it's probably noise. This is generally one of the great things about blockchain is data is super auditable. I mean, there's all these transactions for anyone to go view. So like we regularly audit stuff. Like it's generally quite available, but noise can be really hard to sift through if you're looking for specific insights. So like one example is I think something that I see a lot or like hear a lot is like, oh, crypto's just driven by like gold, like they're highly correlated. When like increasingly that's actually becoming not true. For stable coins, it's very much not true. And so it, like you'll see like, oh, there's a moderate correlation between like, so I'll use USDC as an example. Like between USDC and the gold price, like, oh, so that must be there. But in reality, like a lot of that is just noise. If you look at where USDC is actually correlated with, it's deposits, M2. It's far more correlated. So like I think with crypto, because we kind of all see it moving in one direction and like there's so much weird interaction between everything, people lump it all in together and it makes it really hard for us to sort out, hey, what's actually driving each of these things.
So it's really interesting about the correlation with gold or lack thereof. But what other insights are you able to glean just from the sheer amount of data around USDC that you have access to?
Oh, well, like that's publicly available stuff. There's a lot of very interesting differences with USDC, even between USDC and Tether, like how they're transacted, what the distribution of transaction sizes looks like. As you'd think it'd be. Well, if you remove Tron from Tether, it actually is quite similar, but there's a lot of differences. And so those are some. For USDC, I think just as someone who kind of joined Circle and started looking at this information, I was surprised just how much volume there really is with USDC. Like I did not think it was being as transacted as it is. Like USDC, especially as of recently, has seen like this explosion in transaction volume. And it's not just like a bunch of whales moving money around. Like it's like actual EOA wallets. It's pretty interesting.
So what's driving that?
Huh?
What's driving that?
Just if you were to ask me, I think it'd probably be USDC adoption, but that's pure speculation. Just pure, we're seeing more wallets, we're seeing more transactions. So that would be my guess.
And back to you, Kyle. So you talk about, one of the issues just around, storage of this sheer amount of data that's going to be like doubling in size in 1 year, and gosh, who knows, how that will continue. What other challenges do you face in terms of, particularly around, scrubbing the data and making it into something that's actionable, but like in a timely manner? Like there's just like a lot going on. Like you got to have good data, but you also have to have timely data, or somebody's gonna miss something.
100%. And so, I always try to differentiate. There's real-time data, and then there's historical data. And so we tend to work in the historical data space. And if it's an hour of latency, that's historical data, right? You're not playing in the real-time space. And in the historical data space, luckily we have 7 years of trying to work on this. Flipside's been around for a while. We've always been on the data side. And there's been a lot of work and iteration to really try to standardize as much as possible across different ecosystems. And so you have your EVMs, you have your SVMs, and you have your oddballs. They all try different things, your move chains. There's different ways of interrogating and modeling that data. And so I think the bigger challenge, especially as we bring in a new partner or a new chain, is spending the time to really understand the mechanics of the chain. And if we can do that, then we can model it. We've gotten really good at onboarding. At this point, an EVM is a flick of a switch, right? That's so standard. But we still work with a lot of partners who are trying something new, and there will be more, right? There's going to be new innovations on the tech stack, and so we just have to stay ahead of it. Luckily, we have a pretty amazing data engineering team who spends all day and night kind of thinking about these problems and perfecting that. And I would say last point is, we're not afraid to invest in the right tooling. Whether that's AI tooling or all of our data is in Snowflake. Let's make it easy on ourselves. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. And so that's really how we approach these problems.
Yeah, I don't know if you have anything to touch upon that in terms of, I assume you don't have to really scrub your data like Flipside would need to, given it's just coming through your own, USDC and such. But is there any issues around, how do you get those actionable insights quickly as opposed to sorting through?
Sure, yeah, so I would say that'd be a better question for our data engineers. But on research for what at least I do for trying to find insights, just standard process of exploratory data analysis, and then maybe some baseline models, sometimes cleaning if I'm trying to get sources that's not contained within our data. So for example, I was trying to size the amount of transactions with USDC and some other token, and I was looking at DEX volume, and that's really hard to find, is the amount of DEX volume, or trying to get an estimate for how much there is, just generally.
Bringing AI models into the discussion. So obviously only as good as the data they're trained on. How is Flipside leveraging machine learning to improve the accuracy and usability?
Great question. AI is really, really good at writing SQL. It's really good at coming up with a plan. It's really good at leveraging tools. I think where it struggles still is if it wrote a query that returns a large data set, can it effectively analyze that data set, right? Did we overwhelm the context window of that model? And so we've started to experiment with using really machine learning models or classic statistical models to kind of be an intermediary between the AI writing the query, interrogating the blockchain data, and passing that through a statistical model, and then asking the AI to interrogate the result set of that model, which is a much smaller sample, and actually creates a much better analysis of the data. That may change. These context windows continue to grow, but for now, those classic models still work really, really well for that type of scenario.
So I just read a quote from Mike Novogratz, obviously CEO of Galaxy. He made a prediction. AI agents will become the largest users of stablecoins, transforming how everyday transactions are handled. So Circle has made stablecoins usable for businesses and institutions. How do you see that extending to AI agents?
That is something we talk about all the time, so rest assured, we are definitely looking into this. And yeah, I think that stablecoins are actually a super natural fit for AI agents because of the ability to conduct micropayments. So I think that you're probably going to see a lot more of that as we have agent interoperability, especially for agents that are really, really good for one specific task, which I think is kind of how we're developing, frankly. And so that's where you would see that. So I think you will see more development with that, especially with new protocols. I don't know if you guys have seen Coinbase's X402, the open source. That's a good example for payments. of something that I think could serve as like a baseline or something like where companies are starting to really go after that. I know Circle, we're looking at it actively.
Yeah. Can I actually build on that? Prior to the Flipside, I worked at a retail tech company, and I ran their venture fund. And in fact, that's how I first got into blockchain, right? And the reason why we were looking at blockchain was the margins for most like grocery retailers, Walmart, Kroger, Tesco in the world, are really slim. And you could never do small payments. The transaction fees were too high, right? If you're always facing a 2-3% transaction fee, it really limits what you're able to do. Stable coins and micropayments virtually eliminate that, right? It is a huge unlock for new business models, but also new like pricing models. And there's a huge margin. You've pretty much doubled your margin if you can remove those fees for a lot of, certainly grocery retailers in the world. And to me, like that's always been the huge unlock that we've been waiting for. When will this get mass adopted? Because you can't really take advantage of that. No one's really going to buy with. No one's buying anything with Bitcoin, right? No one's buying anything with native tokens. It's going to be stable coins. And now that that's hit the mainstream, I think that truly unlocks everything we've all been probably watching and waiting for.
And how is thank you for adding that. That's interesting. But going back to the AI agents a little bit too, and just in terms of how are you incorporating, or Flipside incorporating the use of AI agents in your business model?
Well, there's two parts. We were early adopters to AI tooling, just running the engineering and data org. Because we were such early adopters, I think it helped us actually build a good AI product, right? Our engineers knew how to use AI tools and knew what a good AI experience would be. That was critical. And I think going back to the myths, the thought that AI will replace a technical user, I just haven't seen evidence of. Certain roles for sure, but it's made our best engineers, our best data analysts even better, right? They are the best users of this tool. And so, yeah, definitely used internally, but increasingly exciting for what the external product is. Like, we have everything that's ever happened on chain, right? And now you can go and ask any question you ever dreamed of asking, and our AI system will go and find the answer. If you want to know what were the most profitable wallets yesterday on Ethereum, you can go find them and track them, right? If you want to interrogate an exploit that happened, you can go type that in and it'll go give you a full analysis of what happened. It's really very cool to watch, and that part does feel like magic when you first see it. You're like, wow, how did it work through all of that? And I think it speaks to the progress we've seen with some of these more advanced models.
I mean, this seems like a major unlock, the use of AI to be able to just ask the questions and not having to have that necessarily technical background, know how to use an explorer, know how to figure out and find that information. Like, this is huge.
It's huge. And for the first time, like we've had a SQL interface forever, right? But a SQL doesn't give you the intent behind why they're writing that SQL. For this first time now we have the intent. Oh, that's why you wanted that. And that intent is really, really important, and I think underappreciated, perhaps. It's really informing where our product's going. Because before we could interrogate the SQL, we knew what it was trying to do, but we didn't know the intent behind the question.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something?
Sure, yeah, a little bit. I was going to say, as someone who, a lot of my work functionally is just data science for like strategy, all this sort of thing. And it's incredibly helpful to literally be like, hey, can you go run cross-validation on like all this stuff? And like, it can just do it in like 30 seconds, as long as you prompt it well. Also, I don't know if we have any developers who do it frequently. Use cursor rules files. They're your best friend for this kind of thing. But yeah, it's really interesting. The one like danger I feel like though with AI interpreting statistics is it's like they will kind of, or at least I've personally observed that they will like jump to conclusions off of like correlation or something, and like completely ignore other issues like overfitting, for example. Or like they'll like have some weird balance of like all these things. So, like I think there does need to still be human in the loop a lot of the times if you're doing like actual like causal inference, like stuff like that. But for like a good baseline, like hey, how are these two data sets related? It's really good at a first pass version of like, oh, they're like pretty strongly correlated, and it can do that. Like you can literally throw into like GPT like or 5 thinking. I know they changed it now. I use Claude, but 7 point. And it will like actually generate like a summary. It can even generate like plots for you. It's pretty cool. So anyway.
I mean, the good is it always admits when it's wrong. He's like, you try again. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Oh, we talk about the syncophancy and how DPO I think it's that, but I'll ignore that for now.
Do we have any students in the room? 2 students. Are you interested in AI and data and crypto and digital assets? Yeah? What skill sets are needed for these 2 to get into the industry? What do they need to be learning you're in school? Yeah, students in school. What do they need to become one of you in your roles?
Okay, so I just graduated, so I can provide some good things. If you have not, probability class at some point. You need probability theory. Very helpful. Just like I think everyone should take that. A data mining class is really good. You don't need all this fancy, like to get into this kind of stuff. You don't really need to start with all the like super advanced AI, whatever. You're better off taking like a classic, like learning about regressions. Like what are the problems you see with that? And then building on that, then you can get more into like linear algebra, all this stuff for like actual machine learning. I'd kind of recommend going in that order because honestly, to do like a lot of complex AI like stuff, you need to understand that basic statistics. Like you need to understand what are the signs of overfitting. What does it look like when something is like biased? How do I build these kind of things? And like just taking classical like models. Normally they're called data mining at most universities. Also, if you want to do my area, which is reinforcement learning, stochastic processes, if you want to see that. So that's a fun one too. It's like kind of how things move with time. And time series, sorry.
It's been slightly longer since I graduated, but for me, it's curiosity. You can literally learn anything now, right? Everything is there. It's accessible. A new programming language, whatever. You can dive right in. It's funny. We started to write in languages that we never supported previously because we actually just found they were more efficient at certain things. Like we would always previously gravitate towards TypeScript because everyone knew TypeScript, right? Now we can ship in Go, and that's okay that I don't have a ton of Go experts. The AI can be the expert, and so curiosity is really the #1 skill that I look for when hiring personally. Because it is a strong indicator that you will leverage the tools at your disposal to build something, right? You're not in it just for the art of the language. You're in it to build something, and I think that's truly going to be the skill set that will set you apart.
Fast forward 1 year, if Ian were to say, please come back and do this panel 2.0, what do you think we'll be talking about or not talking about?
Well, I think you touched on one, which is stablecoin payments for agentic AI is a really big one, and I think it's just only going to get bigger. There's probably going to be some new advances in LLMs, as there always are. I would think you probably see more integration, not so much like actually like AI systems like being done like on blockchain, so much as you kind of see them working in parallel. At least that's how I kind of see it. I think you're going to see a lot more of that soon. Whether the other one, like of them actually being like together, comes into play, I don't think in the immediate future. But I think you're going to see a lot more like, hey, these two things are working together while being separate. So anyway,
I think we would be very interested to know the percentage of transactions that were initiated by a human versus initiated by an agent. I think increasingly, it's already happening, right? We call them bots a lot of times. But I think we'll want to start to differentiate and draw a line and truly understand that, right? Are we growing healthy activity? And is that healthy activity being driven by humans or agents? And I think that truly will be kind of where we start to interrogate deeper, certainly into blockchain data, is understanding that dynamic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know Stripe did some interesting research on this, with like a gigantic model of trying to model like where payments are coming from and trying to cluster them using that. So.
Do you think AI agents will take our place on this stage?
I think we will always value human time more than we will agent time, and so I hope not. But maybe it would be a nice mix to have a few agents alongside us.
I don't know. No. Yeah, just no.
Any final words you're most excited about, or I don't know, anything you want? You get the closing.
I'm just excited to see the future. Like, I can tell you firsthand, I know a lot of people, because I come from the AI side originally, who are getting interested in blockchain, and I am very excited to see more like people who are kind of like AI native become more into crypto. And yeah, for any people who are looking to study it, like, please do. It'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I'm just excited to see the progress. It wasn't the easiest 4 years here in the U.S. environment, like the regulatory environment, and so to see the innovation unleashed is really, really exciting. And I think there's probably stuff that's going to emerge over this next year that we haven't thought of, and so I'm excited to see what that is.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Ian, for an amazing Boston Blockchain Week. Really appreciate your leadership and bringing everybody together. Appreciate the time on the stage, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.